Welcome back to vlog number 3. It's a bit windy today. I'm on the boat. I'm getting a bit of a southerly, so I'm looking for a nice bay to pull up in out of the breeze, do a bit of work. I need to get one of those microphone gadgets. As you can tell, I'm not the most tech savvy person, but we'll get there in the end. Eventually I'll just get someone to bloody follow me around to all this stuff, but I thought today we could chat about maybe even owning a boat. The best way to own a boat, I mean, this is how I like to own my boats. This is my third boat I've had. It's a 28-foot Mariner cruiser with it's all pretty much original. 1975 with a 225 horsepower Chrysler V8, petrol V8. The best way to own a boat, or this is how I like to own a boat anyway, is by firstly buying an investment property first, and ideally a couple of investment properties. Because going out and buying a boat, or I mean anything that's going to depreciate, is obviously silly. You're better off putting your capital into an asset like property investment in real estate, something that cash flows, and then refinance that property, cash out, refinance to draw equity, increase the loan, get cash out of the property, then go buy your boat with cash. Because I mean, this is a real big shot boat, but I mean this 28-foot cruiser is like maintaining a high maintenance investment property, like a run-down Queenslander weatherboard 5-bedroom house on a big 1,000 square metre block with no rental income. It's the same thing. Maintenance is probably the biggest, I'd say, is the biggest expense. Boats and or maintenance and fuel. So the best way to make it not so much of a burden is to buy it with equity out of a property and then use the cash flow to then maintain it. And then it's just like having another investment, and you don't even really take much notice. This is getting actually a bit more nicer here. The breeze is coming over the headland. The trick is when you're on a boat or a cruising boat like this, you want to be out of the weather, the wind. So whatever the wind direction's coming, you can tuck behind a headland. And I'm going to park up for the day and do some work. I'll put my hat on. The wife was like, I can't wear this hat. But I mean, Trump's pretty mainstream these days. I've been studying him. I mean, I'm a construction property guy at a core, so I've been studying him since my career started in property construction. So, I mean, he's in politics now, and some people don't like him, but I kind of figured that anyone watching me and following me are probably much the same. Everyone's sort of fed up with all the bullshit. And if you are a capitalist property investor type of person, him and along with Harry Triguboff are key iconic figures to study, not just for politics, but their career in property and development, because ultimately blocks of units is where you want to land, and that's how they made their fortune. Yes, they had, Trump had in casinos, and he's put his Trump brand on pretty much everything you can think of, but ultimately at the core of the Trump organization and at the core of Meriton is units, apartments. In the States they call them condos. So you can never go wrong, provided you buy them at the right price, in the right market, at the right time. If you go and buy new and off the plan stuff in peak market, like in Perth and Brisbane now, yes, of course, you'll get burnt and be holding it for many years with no growth. But if you buy in markets that are suppressed, established, and you buy property for half or if not a third of the intrinsic value, which is the rebuild cost, you can never go wrong, because it only will go up, especially if it's got a high earnings of 6-7%. So, but they've set the blueprint. If they can make billions of dollars in apartments, units, condos, whatever you want to call it, that type of product, it definitely works. There's always a demand for affordable housing, fundamental affordable housing. We live in I think the best country in the world. We're only at the start of the significant growth that Australia is set to have. We've only got 28 million people. Everyone wants to come here. We've got beautiful weather, everything you want to need, very low crime, away from everyone else. We've got the wealthiest country with all the commodities that we have. The government's already nearly back in surplus because of all the exports. So, they should take a leaf out of Trump's book and apply tariffs, and then they can almost wipe income tax for everyone, like in Saudi Arabia, or even in parts of Asia. Where income tax is 10%, 15%. So anyway. But we'll see now, you watch over the next couple of years, he's becoming more mainstream. And we are in the golden age. Equivalent points of time. His idol in politics is Ronald Reagan. Mid to late 80s. And history doesn't repeat, but it is sure rhymes, because we're in 2005 now. It's equivalent point of the cycle based off the 18-year land cycle in the mid-late 80s. So 1985, 1986, the last land boom before the market topped down in 1989, before we then went through the 91 downturn, or 1990-91 downturn. So history is just repeating itself. Similar point of the cycle, 2005. So now that we're in 2025, history is repeating like clockwork. So watch all the regulation wind back, like good old Republicans like to do. Cut taxes, he'll try and drop interest rates, but he'll be wrestling the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, but I wouldn't even be surprised if he sacks him and gets someone else just to drop it. And then if he does, then the whole market is just going to be set off. And those that hold assets, property in particular, will prosper. So now is never a better time to get into the market. However, you need to be very cautious on the markets you get into, because the booming markets are not necessarily the markets you want to get into, because when the market turns, come 27, 28, those markets will get hammered. So Look at even these big shop boats. It's Birkenhead Marina. My next boat will be parked in that marina, and it will be my official office. But I mean, those real big shop boats would be like owning a large commercial asset, like an office building with no income. Same thing. High maintenance. That's why most of them buy it with cash, because buying into a commercial asset now, especially at this point of the cycle, if you're heavily leveraged and you lose your tenant, good luck holding on to it for 3 to 4 years in the next land-driven downturn. As history shows us, during those crises, that's when commercial can go vacant. Not only do you lose your cash flow and you need to keep making your interest repayments and all the maintenance upkeep, but the value will drop 60-70%. It'll be pretty much worth land value, a commercial asset, because commercial assets are valued based off their earnings, and if it's got no earnings, then it's worth land value. So that's the best time to buy a commercial asset, is in a crisis, in the mid-cycle slowdowns or the land-driven downturns. So the COVID recession, the GFC, the dot-com bust, the 91 recession we had to have, 1972, they didn't call it anything, but they pretty much nearly sent Harry Triguboff broke. And then you go back 1955, 1933, Great Depression. So they're the best times to buy property, and particularly commercial property if it's vacant, because you'll get it for 50 cents in the dollar, if not 60, 70 cents in the dollar. Sorry, 30, 40 cents in the dollar. You'll get it on, you can get commercial property 50 to 70% on discount in the downturns if they're vacant. You buy them for land value. And then if you can get them running right, you find a tenant, you stabilise it, then that's where you make your money. Now is not the time to be getting into commercial property, because it can fucking wipe you out. And I know people thinking, watching this, who's this, you know, residential buyer's agent talking down commercial. I worked in construction and property game. I know how it works. I've worked for the big institutions in property, and I can tell you, the likes of Lend-Lease and Mervac are offloading their commercial assets like no time ever, because they're trying to shore up balance sheets. They know what's coming. So don't get fooled by someone who's biased to tell you to get into commercial, because now is definitely not the right time to get into commercial. I'm all for commercial. I'm all for every type of asset class in property. I don't specialise in just one, because every type of property has its time in the sun. Whether it's a unit, a townhouse, a villa, a house, regional, metro, commercial, blocks of units, large blocks of units. Like a block of unit, my favourite is blocks of units, and blocks of units in, once you go over a block of 4, that's considered a commercial asset anyway. So I'm all for everything, but there's a time for every type of asset, because it doesn't matter what you buy, it's all about the price you pay relative to its intrinsic value. So, and when the market turns, the fundamentals will change, which has taught the biggest investors in the game. I mean, Trump had to offload all his casinos in 91, couldn't hang on to them. It was too leveraged because people stopped coming and using his casinos in the 91, 92 recession. Nearly sent him broke. It was his condos that kept him sailing through. Same with Harry Triguboff. He nearly went broke to, well, not nearly, but the Citibank thought he was broke. And the way he hedged himself against the banks trying to sell him up was go buy more, build more sites, use all his cash, and he turn around to the bankers and say, well, here you go, finish the projects. So they ended up giving him money to finish them because they thought he was broke. That was in the 72, 73 Land Driven downturn. The next one's coming. So anyway, this is starting to Balmain, Dawn Fraser Pool. I might head up the Lane Cove River and find a good spot. Give the old girl a bit of a blow the cobwebs out. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one.